Thank you for that kind introduction. Before I embark on my story, let me tell you that at 74, I am a septuagenarian athlete and a heart disease survivor and a doctor whose life became so bad that at one time I thought of ending it all. Now I want you, the crowd, the audience, to learn and benefit from my mistakes so that you do not have to go through what I went through. I came to America in my 40s and had a lot of catching up to do. I worked hard, long hours, paying very little attention to myself, to my health, to my family, and to my friends. In fact, I believe that my job at that time robbed me of an opportunity to lead my life with purpose, passion, and positivity. Folks, till the age of 61, I created my own unhealthy lifestyle. I spent the better part of my life enjoying rich, unhealthy food and drink without worrying about the unhealthy consequences like heart disease. Like many of us, like many of you, I thought heart disease will not happen to me. So like a moth to a flame, I was drawn to the sad American diet, full of meat, eggs, dairy, processed foods, refined foods, sugary drinks, as well as the junk food vegetarian and the vegan diet, which is of course full of saturated fats and fried foods and sugar and oils and ghee. So at one stage, I needed these foods. Like an addict, I needed these foods to get my daily high. So what would people call me at that time? They called me a seafood eater, an SEE. I ate everything at sight, be it unhealthy Indian food, be it unhealthy Chinese food, Japanese food, Italian food, you name it, and I've eaten it. And when I was not working hard at my job or eating everything that was laid in front of me, I was a complete couch potato. I did not know the meaning of exercise. The only exercise I probably did at that time was for my eye muscles, looking at joggers run in the park, or my hand muscles, holding the remote to change the TV channels. I also had bad genetics. I mean, blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, strokes, all this runs in my family. But folks, this is the first take-home message. Genetics plays only 10 to 15% of your health outcome. Even that can be negated or mitigated by a proper lifestyle choice, a healthy lifestyle choice. I also had a type A personality. I needed everything under control. It was either my way or the highway. Now, all this in my life created a kind of a stressful situation. I'm not talking about a sudden stress whereby you fight or flight response. No, this was an ongoing stress that caused a lot of cortisol levels to rise in my body. I became anxious. I could not sleep. And so it was no surprise that heart disease came knocking at my door at a young age of 56. Honestly, folks, I was terrified. Two of my arteries were 98 to 99% blocked. And my blockages or my plaques were so thick that they had to use a diamond head drill to shave off the plaques. And guess what? In the process, I got a cardiac arrest. My heart stopped, and they had to shock me to get my heart beating again. Imagine my shock, folks, the next morning when I saw the huge pebble burns on my chest with loss of hair. Now, I take my hat off to the young cardiologist who actually was brilliant. He saved my life by putting those stents. But guess what? 2 years after he put the stents in me, he had a massive heart attack while doing exercise on his treadmill and died. He was only 44. So I believe that heart disease is a leading cause of death, not for both men and women, not only in the US, but worldwide. And so we have to take this thing seriously, because heart disease kills more people than all the cancers combined. And the age is getting younger, and younger people are getting diabetes and heart disease and obesity. When I came to this country, I rarely saw a person having a heart disease or diabetes before the age of 50. I'm seeing now patients 20, 25, 30. There is something wrong, folks, and we all got to join hands to fight this. In spite of having coronary artery disease, my previous lifestyle choices prevailed as I was prevailed. And what happened to me was, even though my previous lifestyle choices prevailed and I laughed at my medical conditions, but inside me, there were tormenting thoughts running rats in my mind. I was a physician. I was supposed to help patients, not become one. So slowly I started withdrawing from life. And the next 5 years were absolutely devastating. I was sad, I was lonely, with uncontrollable sobbing bouts. I would sit on a chair for long hours, just vacantly looking into the distance. At times, I would throw things around, using anger as a cover-up for the deep despair I felt. Nights were worse. I would get up with horrible dreams and night sweats and chronic fatigue as a result. Mornings when I would get up to dress to go to work, and by the time I finished dressing up, I was completely exhausted. Soon all these behaviors and negative thoughts led to more medical problems. Now I had sinus infections, bronchitis, pneumonia pay me visit every year. Chronic constipation because of lack of fiber in my diet. And then to add to this, there were fissures and hemorrhoids. And then came the infamous diverticulitis, little pockets in the colon which get inflamed or infected. And for that, I was admitted twice in the hospital with perforations in my colon. Picture this, folks. My friend, the surgeon, standing over me in the operating room and telling me, Akil, if I do not operate you now, you may not survive. So, folks, it took me, and then not only that, I had enlarged prostate, which put me in the hospital for acute retention of the urine. And now they had to put those huge catheters for 24 hours to get those clots out. And it was like somebody piercing an iron rod into my genitals. It took me 5 years of living this way, with thoughts of suicide included, before I was back in the hospital, this time for an open heart surgery as my stents had failed. Mark my words, if all goes well, I'm going to do a half marathon in a year's time. This is what I told the nurses in the ICU as I was being wheeled in for surgery. I don't know why I said this at that point in time, but looking back, I believe that I had only now 2 choices left. One was to continue this horrific end-of-life journey with mediocrity, anger, and despair, or to make a concentrated effort to really change my life, eat better, move my body more. So, my recovery was, to the surprise of many in the hospital, my recovery was remarkable. I was on the treadmill on the 3rd day. Even with the excruciating chest pain because of the dreaded coughing and being opened up, I did not take any pain medications. In fact, I was happier in this recovery physical pain than the mental agony, the emotional agony of the previous 5 years. So, in spite of the misery I put myself through to this point, when it came down to it, I really wanted to live the rest of my life. Really live it. To do this, I had to make some dramatic changes. It was time to ditch the conventional script adopted by most of my elderly heart patients. So, to keep the promise that I had made to the nurses in the ICU, this lifelong couch potato took to running for the first time in his life. Remember, I had not even done 1K. I started slow. I first walked, then I did a bit of jogging, and then I ran. And running to me became a meditation in motion. I enjoyed running. with the birds chirping and sometimes the waterfalls. And so to me, it was really a meditation in motion. I also started eating better, incorporated yoga, meditation, sky breathing in my daily practice. 8 months after my surgery, I ran my first half marathon. It took me 4.5 hours to complete it, but my bruised heart had not failed me. It carried me physically and figuratively across the finish line. I remember my wife and I had gone a day earlier to Nashville, where I did my half marathon, and I couldn't sleep. I was wondering whether my heart would carry me through. It was dichotomy of fear and excitement, and I couldn't go to sleep till about 2 a.m. But I finished the half marathon. And just when I came back from the half marathon, somebody said, "Would you like to go on a trekking to Mount Kailash?" Without batting an eye, I said, "Sure." So I went on this trekking to Kailash, which was 19,000 feet, where you circumambulate the Kailash mountain. It was cold, there was very little oxygen, and it was hard, really very hard. But as we circumambulated and reached the Dolmala Pass, where several people have died, when I reached over there, everybody was high-fiving and congratulating each other. I craved isolation. I sat on a rock and felt for the first time that what would life be without all these material comforts and luxuries. And I realized that I had this immense inner peace, which can only be felt, but cannot be expressed. When I came down from this mountain, it was my wife who noticed the change in me. My type A personality had mellowed, and I'd become far calmer. And then comes that I've done now, I did several half marathons, full marathons, and comes a fun story. I decided to do a triathlon, folks. Now, the triathlon has 3 disciplines. You swim, you bike, and you run. So to face the cold waters of Lake Lanier in Atlanta, I decided to buy a full-body wetsuit online. In my excitement, I forgot to read the instructions, which clearly stated that you had to put Body Glide on your wrist, on your legs, on your ankles, on your feet, and all around your neck, so that it can help you to put on and take off the suit with ease. But I did not put any glide. As it was difficult for me to put it on, but I could not take it off. No matter how hard I tried. I sat on the bed, I took a few deep breaths, and then made a final attempt to get it off. But I could only pull it down to my waist. I could not take it down from the lower part of my body. So I tried hard enough and swallowed my pride and asked my bemused wife for help. She took one look at me and burst out laughing. And then she turned around and said, "Sit on the floor." And she took hold of both the rubber leggings and tried to pull the suit off me. But it didn't work. All she managed was to drag me around on the floor like a ragged doll. Eventually, she got a pair of scissors and cut the outer legging of both sides. She had now a better grip, not only to pull the suit off me, but to take a whole lot of hair off my legs. Needless to say, we laughed our lungs out for that whole afternoon. Now, even though I was on the treadmill the third day, running and exercising, I was still getting illnesses, not that often, but still, and wondering why. What was I doing that was wrong? So I started researching on how to heal the body without relying solely on medications and invasive surgery. And so I started reading books by my colleagues and other experts in research, in science, and medical science. And the more I read, the more I found that there was something really in this. That is the time when I discovered the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. Believe me, folks, you have all this high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, heart disease. These are all man-made. We doctors are experts at treating the consequence of the disease after it has happened. But folks, I want you to understand that you should not only prevent, but treat. Doctors should now start treating the cause of this disease. So you don't get blood pressure in the first place. You don't get high cholesterol in the first place. And so I'm going to enumerate the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. I won't go into depth, but just tell you, the first pillar, the most important pillar, is nutrition. It's what you eat. Trust me on this. Even if you are a non-vegetarian and you eat meat, eggs, and dairy and all that, become a flexitarian. Cut back on these. Cut back on your processed foods. Increase your whole food plant-based. I've written in my chapter 7 in my book, The Open Heart, over here, of what it needs to be done to become a plant food diet. And you have got fantastic recipes now to lead that kind of life. You know, when I turned plant-based, my energy level soared. I could now, my preparation time in any long distance run, preparation time, my recovery time, my performance time have all decreased. And so the second pillar is exercise. I think every doctor should write a prescription of exercise to all his patients, no matter what situation that patient is. If you're healthy and okay, you have to do moderate to severe exercise at least 5 days in a week. But if you've got a desk job, that does not mean you do your half an hour and then sit on the couch or sit on the, no, you've got to keep your body moving. The third pillar is sleep. A Japanese study did that 7 to 9 hours of sleep are required. I have a problem with this. I'm working on it. So I cannot tell you all, but 7 to 9 hours would be great. Next comes the stress level. Everyone has stress. You see, all the corporate leaders, the world leaders have stress. But it is how you handle stress. These people would all have been in a lunatic asylum, but they know how to handle stress. And this is the most important thing about how you handle it. If you cannot handle it, then you go on to things like meditation, yoga, sky breathing, and what have you. And finally, and then you have the social support system, like I see in this church of yours. And it is better to give support than receive support, as far as what I have experienced in my life. And finally, the sixth pillar is avoid abusive substances, smoking, or drugs, whether it be street drugs or prescription drugs of anxiolytics or pain medications. Try to do something about this. And then finally, if you follow the 6 pillars that I have just told you, your life will change. If you are in chronic pain, your life will change. If you are having no problems today, your life will still change. And what I realized was that what you eat is more important than exercise. Remember, this is the message is courage. So remember, adversity can be your best friend or your worst enemy. What happened to me when they put stents in me, adversity became my worst enemy. The next 5 years were horrendous. What happened to me when I had my bypass surgery? Adversity became my best friend. It brings out things in you that you never would have expected in your daily life. And I could face this. So that is important. And then remember food. Food can either feed a disease or fight a disease. It is not genetics that run, bad genetics that run in your family. It is bad food. And finally, live outside your comfort zone. Adventure can hurt you, but monotony will kill you. Adventure is just a metaphor. Take something else in your life. During the COVID, I took up cooking and gardening. I'm still not a good cook. And so I took up that. People can take up either playing chess or rummy or many other things, mahjong. But you have to, because you have to get outside your comfort zone. And finally, fear. Do the thing that you fear most, and death of fear will be certain. And last, and hey, if I could change at the age of 61, after bypass surgery, going from a type A couch potato to the healthy 74-year-old, then you can change your health too. Remember, thinking healthy, getting healthy, and staying healthy begins and ends with what you eat. Thank you so much for listening.
Is there any evidence of that?
Absolutely 100% no. What Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Esselstein, they have two different views. Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay. What Dr. Esselstyn says that if you want to reverse, and I don't know what heart disease you had. Did you have coronary artery disease?
Yes, they put stents in my heart in December.
Correct. So if you want to completely reverse this heart disease, because every blood vessel is endothelium, and that endothelium, instead of, you got stents now, I've got stents, I've got bypass surgery, they've damaged the endothelium. To start regenerating the endothelium, you have to have a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. Now, if you are taking oil in terms of nuts, which contains a lot of oil, or coconut, then that is okay according to Dr. Dean Ornish. Dr. Esselstyn says that even that is not required, that is also not permitted if you've got a heart disease. But I think, in my opinion, I go the middle road, that you can have nuts, you can have other things which have fat, natural fat, as opposed to putting oil, whatever it is, saturated, unsaturated, it is oil. So if you do that, I am sure, and can I ask you, how old are you, ma'am?
74.
Oh, excellent, you're my age. I think that you will do fantastic, because you already have, and when did you have your stents?
December.
Correct. So remember another thing, you also have collaterals. You have new blood vessels which have already formed. So even if the worst case scenario, if there is a blockage in this one, you will always get this collaterals, the new blood vessels, moving the blood to the heart. So don't worry, you are in good hands. But if you're following a plant-based food diet, kudos to you, more power to you, ma'am. And don't worry about fats and cancer and all that. No. I mean, we are not talking about that kind of fats that we are talking about. Yes, if you're talking about fats which are, say, like the ghee that we Indians use, which is clarified butter, which has got about 10-fold more increase in oxidized cholesterol, all that is different. But what you are doing is great.
I have one more question. I have been reading
Sure.
I have been reading conflicting things about the use of soybeans and tofu. I've found I really love tofu, and it's a good source of protein. Is it harmful to eat tofu?
No, ma'am. What was believed that it was estrogen was there, but it is not estrogen. It is phytoestrogen. Now, I've had some of my patients cannot digest tofu that well. That is different. But there is absolutely no harm in having tofu, tempeh, or any of the soy products. So that there is nothing to do with any cancers or any high blood pressure, anything like that. It is not estrogen, it is phytoestrogens.
Okay, thank you very much.
Not at all. Pleasure, ma'am.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, ask me anything you want. If I don't have the answers, we all can look up.
Good morning, Dr. Taher. Can you see me?
No, I can't see you. That's a problem.
But you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, my question is about exercise. When you changed your life and started exercising, how did your wife respond? Was she out there ready to jog with you, or did you just leave her on the couch? Or I live with a couch potato and he doesn't like to exercise. So I think it would be better for both of us if we got out and moved around more. Just wondered if you
It's a
kind
very
of a relationship thing, I guess, too.
What is your name, ma'am?
My name's Judy.
Judy. Oh, okay. Judy, let me answer this question this way. I believe that when I started doing things, that was something that was coming out, and I saw life in a different way, and I started doing things. My wife is still active. but she does not do mountain climbing or bungee jumping or jump out of the planes. That's not her style. That's perfectly all right. She also but does her 3 miles 4 or 5 times a week. She is not as stringent. I'm not very stringent too, but I'm as stringent as I am regarding my diet. But she maintains so that we have a reasonably healthy diet. She has given up meat because of cruelty to animals.
Okay.
25 to 30 years back, I did not. I gave up for health reasons. So she does exercise. Now, my main point in exercising is that I had a couple that had blood pressure, diabetes, and I told them that why don't you go ahead and exercise? And after 3 months, they came back to me and said, that was horrible advice. And I said, why? What happened? He says, all the way we went up, we walked and we fought with each other and we came back fighting. So there was nothing that was about exercise. So that is my other thing, that if you can exercise, even if your husband is a couch potato, just try to make things in the environment such that he moves around a bit.
Okay.
In the
That is
yard.
helpful.
And then again, remember one important thing. If you're just walking in the park, that is great for your endorphins and all that. But if you are doing cardio, your heart rate should go up to 70% of your maximum. And there's a calculation on that. So if you're doing it cardio, 70% of your maximum. And the maximum heart rate is 220 minus your age. So if I am 74, 220 minus my age will be about 140, and 70% of that will be 103, 104. So if I don't reach that heart rate when I'm exercising, it is not helping me cardio, but it's still helping me, getting my HDL high and feeling good.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for that lovely question.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. I hope you enjoyed the talk.
Anybody else? Okay. Dr. Taher, there's no one else asking a question, so we appreciate your talk today and your Q&A, and wish you a good day and a long life.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it, and wish everyone the best. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Taher.